Okay, with respect to this free exam technique workshop that I wanted to run, I was going to gauge interest and then send out a link. Now, the interest has been resounding and overwhelming, so a lot of people want this exam technique workshop. So instead of going through the admin and sending out the link, Tanya reminded me that it is very important to get this message out there because matrics are starting to write trials. It is now the third term, and we can't wait. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this workshop, and I'm gonna record it because out there grade 12s are stressed. Out there students are stressed. They are, for example, there's two kids in a household that's waiting for this. There's a parent who has a grade 3 that wants to know how to apply exam technique. There's university students, MBA students. In fact, this is for anyone writing an exam. So just from my perspective, I want to give back. I've written and passed a number of exams, including board exams. I've made mistakes, and I want you to not make those same mistakes as well. So I've developed a technique over time which I believe deserves sharing, and if it can help, then that's what should happen. So I've moderated, I've written, I've marked, and grade 12 students, you are under a massive amount of stress because the reality is that papers sitting in front of you and waiting for you to write it is a 3-hour paper that's going to determine the rest of your life. So that is stress in itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down such that the stress is less, and even such that we can get the stress to even 0. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. And just to also clarify, this is for if anyone needs any assistance after this, just feel free to reach out. Also, let me know your comments on this workshop, which we will go through. And I've taken my time, but it's to do this, but it's time which I'm happy to have taken, because if I can help just one, then I feel I've done something. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, let's go through what we will be covering during this workshop. Number one is we're going to do before the exam, how to learn, understanding versus by-hearting, on the exam day what to do, in the exam what to do, how papers are set and marked. Relax, you've got this, right? Now we're also going to go through, practically we're going to go through an allo paper, and we are going to go through a maths paper. Okay, what we're doing here is actually part of this whole process, because this is called a tree diagram effectively. So we're structuring our entire process. We're not just diving into anything, we're taking a high level overview. We know what we're going to be covering, and we're going through that in sequence. Now whenever you're doing anything, be it in, like, so say you're doing electricity, series, parallel, advantages, disadvantages, you need to write that down in terms of your structure. So you have a high level overview of the entire syllabus and what you're doing. So you need structure, you need organization in an exam. Okay. The other thing is, this is a battle. You must see this as a battle. Okay. And in that battle, you must say, I will not go down, not that way. Right? I will not go down, not that way, and I will beat this exam, and I will do well. Now, the first question that you're going to be asked, so think of this as if the first question that you were going to ask in the exam, well, is that God asks you, right? This is his question. Do you want me to help you in this paper? The answer is yes, no, maybe, no, it's okay, I got this, I don't believe in you, I studied hard enough, so I don't need you. I'm okay for questions 1, 2, 4, and 5, but help with question 3 only. I'm fine, I pulled an all-nighter, I can't do this without you, and A and I above. Okay, now let's look at how you would answer, because this is technique as to how you answer multiple choice questions, right? So if God asks you, so this is your question, do you want me to help you in this paper? This is God asking. Now, number one, most people would say yes, right? So you'd say yes, you'd tick that and you'd move on. So your answer would be yes, okay? And then you go to the next question. But this is the approach to answering multiple choice questions is as follows. Okay, so you read the question, you say, do you want me to help you in this paper? You need to go through every single option, right? So you come here and the answer is yes. You say, so you think, okay, maybe that's it, right? Maybe that's true. Then you come to the next one. The answer is no. You say no, that's a wrong answer. Maybe, wrong answer. No, I got this, wrong answer. No, I don't believe in you. Wrong answer. I studied hard enough, wrong answer. I'm okay. I'm okay, help with 3 only, no. I pulled an all-nighter, no. And then look at your I says I can't do this without you, right? Now obviously that's a yes, isn't it? So what happens now is you've got a yes here and you've got a yes here, okay? But now you look at option J. Option J says A and I above. A is yes and I is I can't do this without you. So look at what the answer is. The answer then becomes J, because J is the right answer. J says yes, I can't do this without you. Whereas if you had just read the options and you said yes and you moved on, you would get this question wrong, because the answer is J. So you understand what I'm saying is that you need to go through every single option, say yes it's this, no it's that, and then you would see you will get the right answer. Because if you just said A and moved to the next question, you would lose the marks. So that's just the first technique that you need to know. That is how you approach multiple choice questions. But let's get into the actual structure of the exam. So before the exam, right? So this is what you do before this is now the studying routine that you would do. Firstly, when you're studying for an exam, you need to understand that exams are foreign to us as human beings. We were never designed to take tests, right? Therefore, we need to pray in everything we do, because we can't do this on our own. We were designed to run around in the Garden of Eden and to be happy, not to be sitting and stressing and writing a 3-hour test. Having said that, now you need to understand that firstly, this is foreign to us. It is not like I'm a good student, I always study. No one is a good student. It's all about technique. And then the other thing to know is that research shows that we only use 10% of our brain. So don't get worried about using too much of your brain. We are nowhere near the potential of our brain than we can be, okay? So it's foreign to us. That is why everything we do needs to be technique. If we get the technique right, which is what I'm going to teach you through this video, then we can do well. Okay, so number one, don't leave it for too late. So if you know you got an exam, work consistently. For example, so if you're in matric and you know that you're going to write your matric exam, you would not have left it for too late. You're not going to start today. You would have been building up. So even though you think you might not have, you have. Secondly, it's not about the quality of the hours you put in. It's about it's not about the quantity. Quantity doesn't help. So you could study for 2 hours, the same thing. I could study for 30 hours, the same material, but you could beat me because you put in quality hours versus I just put in hours, right? And for example, I'll tell you, when I used to study, I thought it's about quantity. So on weekends, on a Saturday and a Sunday, I would open the book and I would just like study, okay, and just like walk around and study. And then I realized, you know what, I'm putting in so many hours, but nothing's going through my head. I'm like, I just can't study on weekends. So I decided weekends I would not study, because what's the point of being stressed, having the book open, you don't even learn anything. So I said I will take a break on weekends. That was just me, but the point I'm making is you don't need to spend 30 hours on something. You can spend 2 hours and you can get the same amount of material if you use the right study technique, okay, which I'm going to teach you. Now, I've said the study process, the way the brain works is through 2 ways, right? Repetition and relation. It's called the R method. So what do I mean? Repetition and relation. And then the third method is if some people have a photographic memory. If you can look at something and you can just remember it, right? Now, don't think you don't, because we all can. Because if you look at this, if I say repetition and relation, right, and then I ask you to close your eyes and ask you what I said, you would say repetition and relation. These 2 words would come up in your head. So you are wired. We have a photographic memory, okay, which we can use. Now, what do I mean by repetition? Repetition means you keep repeating the same things. So say, for example, I tell you there are 7 colors in the rainbow, okay, and I tell you the colors are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Now, those are 7 colors, and if I say, what are the colors of the rainbow, list them, and this is 7 marks. So you're going to have to say those 7 colors: red, yellow, green, and you're going to miss some out, okay, because it's not easy. But if you keep repeating red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, if you repeat it 10 times, then you will remember the seven colors. But here's what I'm saying: the other way to learn is relation. So for example, how do I know those 7 colors of the rainbow? I don't, but I have a relation in terms of I have a mnemonic, right? If I think of a person, his name is Roy, his middle name is G, and his surname is Biv. Roy G. Biv, right? Roy G. Biv. If I keep repeating Roy G. Biv, I'll remember it. But how does that help me to know what the colors of the rainbow are? Here's how. Roy G. Biv. R is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So just knowing Roy G. Biv, thinking of a person whose name is Roy G. Biv, I now know the colors of the rainbow. I don't need to repeat it 100 times. I know red, orange. Now look at how amazing this is, because just having this mnemonic, I can tell you it's violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So what I've done, I've actually said it backwards. And just because I know this word, Roy G. Biv, I can tell you the colors of the rainbow. So the point I'm making is mnemonics help. And they say the more stupid your mnemonic is, the easier it is to remember it. Right? So Roy G. Biv is like so. And remember, now you're using repetition as well to assist you, because you need to repeat the words Roy G. Biv. You need to close your eyes and see the word Roy G. Biv. And then when the question comes out in the exam, what are the colors of the rainbow? That is 7 marks guaranteed, because you know this. And most of you, after this lesson, are still going to remember the 7 colors of the rainbow. So instead of by-hearting it, I've quickly got a relation, I've made a mnemonic, and I've made it easier to learn that. So the idea is, do this for your work. When you get a whole lot of information, break it down, make it simple, right? And learn it from, so the important thing is take a high-level overview. There's a whole lot of pages in the textbook, in the notes, right? So highlight the keywords and then know where you're going. So you're breaking it down, and the idea is to make it easy. Then the photographic memory, which we think we don't have, is you write this down as your notes, you close your eyes and you will see it. Okay, simple as that. Now, some people work with the timetable. So we're talking about studying before the exam, right? Some people say you have a study timetable, you will do maths for 2 hours, then you'll do English for 2 hours, and then you will do Afrikaans for 2 hours, right? So that is on a Monday, and then on a Tuesday, so you got a whole timetable of what you will do on which day and when. Now I have to tell you, for me, the timetable is obviously the recommendation, but it never worked for me. I was never the person who could stick to a timetable. I'm not saying that you mustn't. I'm saying that that is best practice, but it never worked for me. And maybe even with this, you find what works for you. So I kind of had my, so we were writing 7 subjects obviously in matric, and I kind of had my thumb on it in that I'd say, you know, I'm behind in Afrikaans now, so let me do Afrikaans today. I'm behind in maths, so let me do maths. So I couldn't stick to a timetable, so I didn't make a timetable. I worked on what worked for me, which was I kind of knew what I needed to do when. Okay. The other thing is study groups is obviously a lot of people get into and do, but again, for me, it didn't work. Okay, because study groups for me ended up being you were with your friends, you were talking and you were joking, and time went, right? And then some people knew it more than other people, so it never worked for me. But things like timetable and study groups is something, if it works for you, keep it, right? If it works for you, definitely don't change it. But I'm just saying, for me, it did not work. And if you're grade 3, grade 4, then give yourself the chance to see if it works or if it doesn't. But if it's not working, if you're finding, and you know, if you're finding you're wasting your time in a study group, then drop it. Okay? If you're finding that a timetable doesn't work for you, then find an alternative. Find something else. Just say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do maths today. Don't make it generic. I'm doing maths for 2 hours. I'm doing Afrikaans for 2 hours. Have your thumb on it. You kind of know what you need to work on. But I'm not recommending that you don't do a timetable or that you don't do a study group. If it works for you, then do it. Then the other thing is when you're studying, you tend to focus on your stronger subjects and you leave your weaker subjects. So that is why you get better and better and better in your stronger subject. So for me, my weak subject was Afrikaans, but my strong subject was maths and English. So whenever I studied, I would go into studying maths and English because I enjoyed that. And Afrikaans just ended up getting weaker and weaker. But now when it came to the matric exam, I now realize Afrikaans is my weak point. So I spent a lot of time in improving my Afrikaans, which is not fun, but it was, in a way it was bad, because spending all that time of Afrikaans meant that I couldn't do maths and English and all this, because I knew I needed to pull Afrikaans up. So maybe I should have actually worked on Afrikaans earlier and more. Okay. Now the other thing, so I'm saying just beware of the fact that you will be focusing on your stronger subjects more than your weaker subjects, but it should be the other way around. But also you need to enjoy your study process. So if you enjoy maths and English, and so if you're feeling energized, then obviously go into like some of your weaker subjects. But if you're feeling like a bit low, do your stronger subjects, because it'll help you with your mood. Then the other thing, when you get to university, even at school, right, even if you're grade 3, you need to read ahead, right? I'll tell you what I mean, read ahead. Because for example, if you're sitting in an economics 1 lecture, right, and you know that the lecturer has now did supply and demand, right? So you know, you drew the lines, you did the supply, you did the demand. But now you know that the next, so say it's Monday, you know on Wednesday, the lecturer is going to be covering what happens after supply and demand. So it's like macro and micro. So what I'm saying is, you know supply and demand, right? And the only way that it works for me is because when you get to university, you'll see that the lecturer covers from page 1 to page 88 in one lecture. Then he says to you, you need to know page 89 to 160, right? Now that is how fast they move. So when I say read ahead, I'm saying when you've done the lecture and you know that the lecturer is going to be covering pages 89 to 160 in the next lecture, I'm saying read ahead. Okay, now I'm not saying read ahead and learn. I'm saying read ahead and you won't understand what you're reading, right? I promise you will not, because it's all foreign and the subject's difficult and you're reading, it's not like you're going to read. But what you are doing is, even on the night before, is you're reading ahead and you are seeing what's coming next. So you're seeing the macro and the micro. Macro is how it affects the country. The micro is how it affects the business. You read the headings. Just be aware of what the lecturer is going to cover in the next section, even the teacher, right? So if the teacher is doing functions and next week he's doing graphs in maths, then read ahead. You won't understand it before but you will see when he does start lecturing and does start talking about graphs, things will start clicking. The headings that you saw, that you read ahead, will start making sense. So when you get to university, you will see it is a volume of work. I promise you, you're covering like from page 1 to page 88, and you think things are tough in school. When you go to university, they work rapidly, they move quickly, there's no time. Effectively, all the lecturer does is kind of stands in front of all the students, and he basically reads the heading, and the next thing, before you know it, you're writing a test on it. So this is not only about university, it's also about school. Read ahead. So even if you're doing LO and you're talking about the effect on the environment, and the next section is about APS scores and understanding yourself in the world of work, before the lecturer or the teacher starts talking about it, read ahead. And I'm saying you won't understand it, right? But something will click when the teacher starts talking. It wouldn't be completely foreign to you. The other thing is, use your own logic and simplify things. Okay, so imagine that you came up with it. So for example, like the theory of Pythagoras says, the square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides, right? So if you have a triangle and it goes like this is one side, and then this is the other side, we're saying the square of this side is equal to the square of that side. So now you need to understand what this means. So when I say imagine that you came up with it, so imagine you were the one that came up with the theorem of Pythagoras. And see what I said. I said the square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides. It is very important that you use the right words and that you say it correctly. Because if you don't say it correctly, if you say the other two sides squared is equal to the hypotenuse, or you need to say it in such a way that your brain remembers. Because if you can't say it, then you don't know it, and then you won't get the marks. So I'm saying, listen how the square of the hypotenuse, which is along the side, right, is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides. So imagine that you were Pythagoras, you were standing in front of mathematicians many years ago when he came up with this theorem, right? And they were all listening to him and he was telling them this is a theorem. So he would draw the triangle and he needs to use the right words, right? He needs to say the square of the hypotenuse, okay? That's along the side, squared, is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides. So you understand? So now you can work out, if you have one side, you can work out any of the other sides. But you need to understand the words and say it as if you were doing it, and it needs to make sense. Because if you can't say it correctly, then you don't know it correctly and you won't get the marks because it will come out in the exam. The other thing is, we're saying, keep it simple. Okay? Keep it very, very simple. Do not complicate things. You will find that when you go through textbooks, when you go through notes, it is complicated, okay? Some people do not know how to write textbooks, and yet they write it. So the things are so complicated, so mixed up, so jumbled, it's not your fault. But you need to make it simple. You need to organize your own work. Make your own, do your own notes, have your own mind maps, and have a big picture overview like what I'm saying here. So we know exactly what you're doing. Before, learn, on the day, in the exam, relax, how papers are set. So this is there's a lot of stuff we're covering today, but you can see so like right now, we are before the exam, right? Then now, we are going into how to learn, okay? So this is still in the big, so hear what I'm saying. You need to have this big picture overview, no matter what the section, be it geography, or you need to know where you're going, or physics, or periodic table, anything that you're doing, have a mind map, have an overview, I'm saying, just put the heading down, and under the heading have the sum, like electricity, right? So you're going to put electricity down, then you're going to say series, parallel, advantages, disadvantages, switch, battery. So you hear what I'm saying? All of these words need to trigger something. So if I say to you electricity, you need to automatically trigger those words in your head. So that is why when you are studying, don't by heart. Don't say series means that the battery is connected to both sides, and then if the switch is closed, then the textbook will say that. But you need to quickly read the headings, have an understanding. So let's just take, I didn't even think about it. Let's take electricity. Series, parallel, advantages, disadvantages, battery, switch. You can think of all these things. Resistance, Ohm's law. You see what I'm saying? All of those words trigger something for those who know this. So it must come down to words. So if I say anything to you, if I say mathematics, right, you must think addition, subtraction, multiplication. You see, you think of all of those different functions, and then it clicks, it falls into place. Whether you're in grade 3 or grade 12, that is what needs to happen. Our brain works by relation. So if I gave you any subject, if I gave you any topic, if you say periodic table, you must know acid, base, right? You must know natural elements. You must know H, hydrogen. You must know O2, oxygen. You must know where on the periodic table they fit. You must be able to close your eyes and see the periodic table. Never close your eyes and see the textbook and what O2 is 8 on the periodic table, and that is by hearting. There is not enough time to by heart everything. High level overview, that is what I want to drum in, right? Make your own notes, don't rely on other people's notes. I can tell you, I did lecturing for board students, right? And these are board students, these are students that are already working, so they were writing the CMA board exam. And so I stood in there and I was teaching it like I'm teaching you. I'm saying, talk, right? Understand, because now you're already understanding relation, repetition, Roy-G-bill. You're going, but these university students, right? And like board exam students who are already working. So I actually asked them a question. I said, so if you were running this business, right, what would you do differently? And this is like 80 students in the class. What do you think the risk is and what do you do differently, right? And you know how many people answered? Not one. Zero, right? They didn't raise their hand. They didn't say what the risk would be. They didn't say suppliers. They didn't say price could change. All of these things that they needed to know for the exam, but not one person raised the exam. And then after that, during the break, one of the students came up to me and said, you know what? Don't ask us questions. We're not used to answering questions in a lecture. We just want notes, right? Now look at that. I'm saying make your own notes. Some people are so caught up in notes that it's just scary, right? And then one person's notes may make sense to that person, but not to another person. So make your own notes. Even if you miss the lecture, go through, read it, and make your own notes. Don't just, because some people, they just want notes. They feel that the more notes they have in the file, the better they're going to do. Ask the questions, right? Instead of just taking somebody else's notes, and challenge yourself. So like when I said the electricity, think about it. So you're going to say electricity series, parallel. Now you know the difference. If one bulb goes off, the other stay on. So that is parallel. If it's in series, one bulb goes off, all of them goes off. Think about the switch, what the switch does. Think about Ohm's law. You hear what I'm saying? I'm saying words. You come up with, like, for example, in this, right? Like we know we're doing an exam technique workshop. So we're doing before the exam, we're doing during the exam, after the exam. We're going to practice how tests are done, how they are. So I'm saying that you need to have words, no matter what the subject. If I told you anything, if I said to you digestive system, and you're writing biology, okay? Now you need to tell me bile, liver, stomach, peptic acids, esophagus. You see, all of those words mean something to you, and all of those words trigger something to you. So even if you're doing grade 3 maths, right? Grade 3 maths, and you know it's like counting. It's like you like jump this number and jump that number, like 5 plus 2 plus 7 or whatever. So you need to relate, no matter what the subject. If I give you any subject, you need to tell me words. I'm not asking you for definitions. I'm not asking you what Ohm's law says. I'm asking you to come up with the word Ohm's law, because then it will help you, and I'll show you how it helps you in the exam. Okay, number 13, ask questions in the class. Don't be afraid to, because you will find that you might think it's the stupidest question that you're asking, but you will find everybody's got the same question on their mind, but they're too scared to ask. So be bold, ask questions in class, and try and learn as much as you can in class. Be a person of excellence, right? So be neat, be organized. If you're all over the place, you do not stand a good chance of doing well in exams. Highlight, make mnemonics. The sillier the mnemonic, the better. Okay, I'll show you. They actually say, like, if you make a mnemonic like Roy-G-bill, that's kind of a stupid mnemonic. A person named Roy, G and B-I-V. It's a stupid mnemonic, but it is harder to forget it because it is so stupid. So remember, the sillier the mnemonic you make, the better. And a mnemonic is essentially a word that helps you to remember a bigger part of the theory. Like Roy-G-bill, 7 colors of a rainbow, is difficult to learn. It's 7, and if it comes out, you're going to be stressed if you can only remember 4. But just having that little mnemonic, that little technique helps you. The other thing is keep calm. Find your best time to study. Have a routine. Have a balance. Take a break. Okay? This is different to what some people are saying. Study, study, study. I'm saying not. I'm saying have a balance. Take a break. Even if you're in grade 12, do not sit and work for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours. You need to take a break. Your brain needs to rest. You need to balance. You need to watch TV. You need to go for a walk, laugh, spend time to yourself, Do not study for multiple hours going, because your brain is going to be taking less and less and less. You need to understand your brain. You need to listen to the signal when the brain says, you know what, I'm tired. I can't do this. I'm exhausted. So take a break. Watch TV. Laugh. Do whatever to relax you. Do not study for hour and hour and hour on end. It is not about quantity. It's not about 30 hours. It's about quality. You can learn the same thing in 2 hours, especially since you now have this mnemonic and you know the repetition relation. So whenever you are learning anything, ask yourself, how are you learning it? Are you repeating constantly, or are you relating it to something? And remember, by-hearting is never the way to go. It's like when you're doing a speech, right? You do not by-heart the entire speech, because if it's a 5-minute speech and after 30 seconds you get stuck, you are dead in the water. So it's exactly the same with the speech. Like even the way I'm doing this lecture, okay? I'm not by-hearting, I'm not reading, I'm just telling you. Like I'm coming now to say, have a balance, right? Obviously, take a break, watch TV, go for a walk, laugh, remind yourself. So these are just trigger words, okay? So have trigger words. It's, if this is completely foreign to you, it should be the breakthrough that you need. Trigger words. Allow, understand yourself, understand the world of work, understand where you fit in, okay? Just those things instead of regurgitating the textbook. The other thing is talk to yourself, align yourself, and back yourself. Don't knock yourself out and say, you know what, I studied so hard for this, I did so badly, I can't study, I can't do well, I can't do exams. No, do not knock yourself down. Think of yourself as your brain and as your body. Your brain and your body need to work together. Your brain can't be shouting to your body and saying, you know what, you're not doing what I want you to do. You need to back yourself. You need to, it's like a team. It's like in soccer. If he doesn't link up with Suffice, right? If they are fighting, or McAllister, if they're just fighting with each other and shouting at each other, they will not win matches. They need to back each other. There will be times when Szoboszlai gives a bad pass and Salah can't get the ball, and then he's irritated and he's frustrated, but back him. Back your body. Your mind needs to back your body, and your body needs to back your mind. This is very, very important, because a lot of people are knocking themselves out. A lot of people are saying, but I'm doing my best, but I can't do that. No, you can do this. Okay? Do not feel overwhelmed. Enjoy yourself. Sounds stupid, right? But enjoy this exam. You will only get one shot at it, and you will nail it, and you will exam, and you will excel. Okay? Give it your best shot. No one is asking you to get 100% for every question. You won't. No one will, right? No one in this matric exam, no one in any exam will get 100%. Maybe one or two will, but the majority will not. All you want to do is give it your best shot. If you get 80%, that's excellent. 80% is an A. 100% is also an A. So you can get 20 wrong and still get an A. All you want is an A, right? If you're a C student, then aim for a B. Aim for an A, but if you fall short, you get a B. Do not let others put pressure on you. Whether they be parents, teachers, siblings, whoever, don't let them put pressure on you. And then don't put pressure on yourself. Do not put pressure on yourself. Enjoy yourself, work with yourself, laugh, relax, be happy. Do a self-assessment, right? You know yourself more than anyone else. You know if you are far behind in a section, then you can catch up. If you are far ahead, then that's good. Know that you got this. Okay? Be happy. Don't let this get to you. Don't panic. And don't knock yourself out. The aim is to get as many marks as you possibly can in the time available. And it's critical in the time available, because you could write this exam, you could get 100%, but you won't, because the time is limited to 1 hour, for example. And for example, accounting papers are not designed to be finished, right? Just understand that accounting papers are not designed to be finished. So I can tell you what they actually said for accounting is, what you need to do is, and you need to be intelligent in the exam. So you start off with the exam, you know it's financial statements, right? So you start off with turnover, cost of sales, gross profit, other income, other expenses, net profit before tax, retained income at the beginning of the year, retained income at the end of the year, just for writing out that template, right? Even if you haven't put in any numbers yet, but if you wrote out just that template, the template of the balance sheet, if you started with share capital, retained income, owner's equity, long-term liabilities, total equity, fixed assets, current assets, stock debtors, cash, current liabilities, trade creditors, other creditors, accruals, provisions, and then you balance your balance. All you need to do is do the skeleton of the template. If they're asking you for the income statement, balance sheet, do the skeleton immediately, because what tends to happen is that people they write turnover, right? And then they try to work out the turnover. Then they write cost of sales, then they get gross profit, and then time's up, right? They spend so much time, and then they're handing in the paper without the template, without telling the teacher that they know the structure of the balance sheet. So you hear what I'm saying? Help the teacher to give you marks, okay? And the aim is not to get as many marks. The aim is to get as many marks as you possibly can, not to get everything right. In fact, they'll tell you, when you write out the template, turnover, cost of sales, the chances are when you are writing in the exact numbers for each of the things, the chances are it's going to be wrong. But just because you got the template, and if it carried 3 marks, you're at least going to get 1 for the template, okay? So what I'm saying is, do not think you need to get 100%. If you did question 1 and you realize, geez, I didn't do everything right here, unsure about a couple, maybe I only got 6 out of 10, maybe you got 8, relax. You don't need 10 out of 10, okay? Don't panic, because the aim is not to get everything right. So don't panic. You might think you got 6, but you might have got 8, right? And the average for that question might only be 4. So it might be a very difficult question, right? The other thing is plan. Plan for what you want to do, for what you want to become. Right now, everyone's got access to ChatGPT. So what you need to do is put into ChatGPT, right? Say, these are the symbols that I got for each of my subjects. What is the APS score, right? And can I get into university because I want to study pharmacy, for example, right? ChatGPT will tell you, because it's scanning on the website, it'll tell you the universities need an application point score of 32. Because remember, each of your subjects gets weighted. Like if you get an A, that's 8 points, and then you get a D, that's like 4 points, and then they add up all your APS scores, and they say, for pharmacy, you need 32 as a benchmark. And if you work out your APS scores based on your results as of June, and you find out you only got 28, then it's telling you you need to increase your APS scores by 4, which is not going to be easy, because remember, 1 point is 1 symbol. So if you want another point, you need to go from a C to a B, okay? So that's scary, but any one of you right now, put in the subjects and put in the marks that you got. It will tell you the APS scores and ask it, can I do pharmacy? Can I do law? Okay, it is as simple as that. And what do I need to do to be able to do it? If so say the APS score cutoff is 32 and you got 36, then you're fine, right? But don't relax. Try and make it as high as possible. Next thing, practice, 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 right? Simulate exam conditions. Keep adjusting your technique. If you're finding that it's better to work later, then adjust and work later. You can read a book about driving or cooking, you can read it 10 times, right? But unless you actually sit behind the wheel, unless you actually put the oil in the pot, add the onions and the tomatoes, and you can read about it, but you will not be able to do it until you actually do it. You need to take your brain through the actual process, which is why practice, practice, practice. If you're writing a 3-hour exam, practice. Just before I step off this, before the exam, I just want to say one other thing, right? Remember, like, some papers are not designed to be finished like accounting. So the other thing is, when you are studying, you need to find out your best time to study. Okay, when is the best time that you study? And they say, well, research actually shows it's between 7 to 9 at night. Okay, but for me, that did not work. So you need to find out what works for you. 7 to 9 at night was when the house was too busy, when everybody was having dinner and the TV was on, it was too loud. So for me, the best time to work was probably between 11 at night to about like 2:30 in the morning. Okay, so what I used to do is when I came home from school or university, I used to sleep. Okay, and then I would get up around 9 p.m. I'd have supper. I'd watch TV, and then because now the house is quiet, everybody's sleeping, the house is very quiet, and then from 11 it was very quiet and I was able to study. Okay, but now when you're studying, the other important thing is do not sacrifice sleep. Okay, don't kill yourself. Don't think, I can't sleep, this is too important. Sleep is absolutely important. They say if you don't get enough sleep, then you're stealing from your future. Especially in these exams, you need to be rested, you need to be relaxed. It is not the time to kill yourself and sacrifice sleep. Get as much sleep as you possibly can. Do as much quality studying as you can, not quantity. If you're doing 30 hours, cut it down. Okay, force yourself to learn as much in 2 hours using the high level technique, using the methods, using the mnemonics. Okay, and now we're going into actual learning. So we're going to take an LO as an example, which everybody does, right? So let's just do this section. Okay, LO, life orientation. Now there's a topic called emotional and social well-being, right? So under this topic, there's things like peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem, conflict resolution, rights and responsibilities. Okay, so now this is your heading, this is your subheadings, and under this you're going to have a whole lot of detail, right? So if this comes out in the exam, and you have to write an essay on emotional and social well-being. Now that essay is going to require you to cover all of these points: peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem. This could be a chapter in the textbook, right? It could be like say 10 pages in the textbook. Now how are you going to study that? How are you going to remember that? Because I won't. I promise you I will not be able to write that essay unless, so this is how I would study it. Remember, it's repetition, relation, and a photographic memory. So this is my relation, right? Okay, so again, here we are with LO, right? So say the section came out and it's for 10 marks, right? And they want you to put each of these things down. Now, we know peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem, conflict resolution, rights, and you can keep repeating it and you can remember that, right? But that is difficult to remember. 10 marks, it's a lot of information. So look at the mnemonic, PBR, SCR, right? So you just learn that. You repeat it, PBR, SCR, PBR, SCR. And then once you know that, you can see that. And then the P, peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem, conflict resolution, rights and responsibilities. So you see what I'm saying? Using one mnemonic, I've covered the entire emotional and social well-being. And now I don't need to know the detail under, because let's look at it. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is your friends putting pressure on you. Okay, I can give you any of these words and you can tell me what they mean. You don't need to buy out, you don't need to regurgitate the textbook. All you need to do, PBR, SCR, PBR, SCR, which is then you can actually, you can block this off and you will still know what it says. So it's peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem, conflict resolution, and the R, which you see. Now, I don't know the R, but had I gone through it more and more, the R would then be rights and responsibilities. You see? So all you need to do so imagine for 10 minutes you took that, for 10 minutes you took that entire chapter, you summarized it, you looked at the headings, and all it comes down to is peer pressure, bullying, respect, self-esteem, conflict resolution, and rights and responsibilities. I hope I'm making my point here, because this is designed to assisting you in taking an entire section, right? Summarizing it down into just a few letters. Letters which mean nothing to someone else, but a lot to you. Okay? So just use that technique. No matter how hard your work is, make a mnemonic. Now beware of not making too many mnemonics. Beware of repeating the mnemonics, because even when you're doing your exam preparation, your revision, and if I say to you emotional and social well-being, automatically it needs to click in your head PBR SCR, and you need to be able to tell me, and that's 10 marks guaranteed. Let's take this another step further, right? So this is now, we know that, so let's just do accounting, right, for those who are doing accounting, even for those who haven't, right? Because you're looking at adjustments in the general ledger. So under that, you have a whole lot of, you've got a heading which says prepaid expenses. So this is how it works, how prepaid expenses work. Okay. Then you've got accrued income. Okay. Then you've got income received in advance. And then you've got expenses payable, right? Now, firstly, what I've done is, because this would be the textbook, right? It would say prepaid expenses. It would not be highlighted in yellow, okay? But I've made a structure that says this. So under this, I've got now prepaid expenses, accrued income. So that is what I need to study for this section, right? Which comes out a lot more. It'll come out in every single exam, whether you're grade 12 or grade 6, you will see these concepts and these names. Now, how do you remember this? Prepaid expenses and accrued expenses. So let me tell you how I remember, right? Firstly, I don't know. Okay, I don't know the definition of prepaid expenses, nor do I want to know it, right? I don't know that. So it's prepaid expenses, accrued income, income received. There's all these buzzwords, right? And now when it comes to an exam, you need to understand it. You need to know it. You can know the definition by heart, but if you can't apply it, then you're going to get it wrong. Okay, you're going to panic. You're gonna have a blackout, because it's, I mean, look at this: prepaid expenses, accrued income, accrued expenses, income received, payable. It is confusing. I promise you, it is confusing. So how do you take away the confusion? Because you can remember, you can repeat this, you can go over and over, but this is practicality now, because they're going to give you a question in the exam. They're not going to ask you to define a prepaid expenses. They're going to tell you, and you know how accounting exams are. They're going to tell you that rent of 12,000 is paid January, February. They're going to give you all of this information, and your brain is going to wobble. Your brain is going to be overwhelmed. So let me tell you how I learned this, right? And now this is called the understanding versus the by-hearting. So this is how I look at an income statement and balance sheet, right? And we're going to look at prepaid expenses. So for the accounting students, this is the way you should look at a balance sheet. Remember, a balance sheet is as at, right? An income statement is for the year ended. Now, there's a reason why they use those words. So, if you think of an hourglass, right? We all know what an hourglass is, where you have like the sands of time, right? So you see, you have a little, it drips through, the sand drips through from this section to that section, right? And then it collects in this little jar, okay? So this is accounting. This is what a balance sheet is. You see the top half? Okay, the top half of this hourglass is the balance sheet. Right? The bottom half of this hourglass is the income statement. Okay, you see the income statement is for the year ended, which is 12 months. The top half is the balance sheet as at. So if you start a new business, okay, so say you started a new business and you put in all your money, you put in vehicles, you put in everything, all of that goes into the balance sheet. The balance sheet is something that you have for the future, which will drip into the income statement over time, right? Now, think about every year, think about it that you start, that this section is zero, right? There's nothing here. And then as the year goes on, things drip into this section, right? Obviously. So from the balance sheet, it moves into the income statement. Right? Now, because the income statement is for the year ended, it's important to realize that whatever you see in the income statement is for 12 months, okay? Because you want to see what happened for those 12 months. So you know you've got all these assets, it all accumulates up here in the balance sheet. Fixed assets and stock, and so it's all up here in the balance sheet, right? Remember, when you buy anything, it goes to the balance sheet. Then, from the balance sheet, things drip into the income statement. So whenever you look at an income statement, that tells you what happened for the 12 months. So it's the income statement for the year ended, okay? So it's very important to understand that concept. The income statement is always for 12 months, right? And the balance sheet is what you have for the future. So that's why if I look at your balance sheet and if I see it's got fixed assets of 1 million, for example, then I know that you've got 1 million rand worth of fixed assets to generate income in the future, which will drip into the income statement, right? Now, this is how you need to understand prepaid expenses, okay? Because remember, your income statement is always for 12 months. So if you have, say, rent, right? And you know your rent is 1,000 rand a month, right? And then it shows you that your rent in your trial balance is 13,000 rand. And straight away you're going to say to yourself, something's up here, because I expect rent to be 12,000. If it's 1,000 a month, and now suddenly it's 13,000, I need to make it 12,000. So you do a journal entry. You do a journal entry between the income statement and the balance sheet. So you reduce your rent by 1,000 such that it will become 12,000. Okay, 12.23. So you are going to, so you're going to credit rent, because rent is a debit, right? All expenses are debit. So you're going to credit rent, okay? So your journal entry is going to be, you're going to credit rent expense, right? Okay, which is going to be at that 1,000 obviously. And then you need to debit something, because for every debit there must be a credit, right? And you're going to debit. Now you've paid this 13,000, right? That means because remember what we're saying about the sands of time, we're saying as if things cut off here, as if the world came to an end essentially, okay? So say your year end 1 January to 31 December, now the year came to an end and you paid 13,000 rand worth of rent. If the world came to an end, that 1,000 rand year, whoever you paid it to, they need to pay it back to you. Okay, so now you've got a debtor. So say you paid the rent to, let's say to Mr. G, right? So Mr. G is now a debtor. So Mr. G owes you back that 1,000. So you need to show it on your balance sheet, because your income statement has to show 12,000 rand worth of rent, which is now you made it show 12,000, and the debit goes to the balance sheet because that guy owes you that money now, because you paid it in advance, right? So you can go and claim it from him if the world came to an end, right? So that is how you get your prepaid expenses. That means I paid it in advance, right? That is how we will now get our accrued income. Accrued income is same thing, right? So say we got somebody and he kind of owes us money, and so you need to make sure that whatever you see in this income statement is for 12 months. So if your income is only 110,000, right, and every month you get 10,000, then you're going to accrue for the other 1,000, because it's simple. Once you get your income statement right, your balance sheet will automatically be right. So you could either accrue for that income. Accrue means just like account for it, right? You account for the income, or sometimes this guy could have paid you in advance. So say same thing, say he pays 1,000 rand a month, but suddenly he paid for January, he paid extra, he paid 13,000. Then you're going to bring your rent to 12,000. Okay, you're going to bring it to what it should be for the 12 months. Even now, expenses payable, that's called accrued expenses. So even in this case, if say our water expense, right? Our water is, so say we pay 1,500 rand a month for water, right? Then we know that for 12 months, it's then going to be 1,500 times 12. It should be 18,000, right? But now, if you look at your trial balance, and they're going to tell you that your water expense is only 10,000, right? That means you've only accounted for 10,000. Now, to get it to be 18,000, you need to, because remember 1,005, it needs to be 18,000. So all you're going to do is you're going to increase it by 8,000. So you're going to debit your expense to get it to 18,000. You're going to credit your accrual, which means you owe this guy 8,000. So if the world came to an end on that date and you only paid water of 10,000, you owe somebody 8,000. So you see, so that is how I understand it. So using the hourglass, right? Using the way that this thing drips into the income statement, using the fact that an income statement always means for the year ended, right? The balance sheet is always as at, so it's kind of sitting there to drip into the income statement over time, which is how you would read a balance sheet and read an income statement. Now, just to hammer this point in, it's important to understand, because when I learned this, it was like, I'm not learning prepaid expenses and accrued expenses and income. I want to understand it, right? And now that I understand it, it is no matter what they give me in the exam. So see, they will give you in the rent of 12,000 is paid. They will tell you accrued income, interest of 500 Rand is due. So it's due from the bank, so accrue for it, right? So the 500 must be. Then it says income received in advance, which means somebody paid me in advance. So I need to get it to 12 months. All of these adjustments will get you to 12 months, right? Now, so that was the sense of time, which is something, believe it or not, I developed myself. But it helps me to understand how an income statement and balance sheet works. And I hope it'll help someone else as well. Then the other thing is we're talking about understanding, right? So let's look at understanding. This is now, for example, one of the famous mathematicians came out with this, scientist, he actually said that matter can only occupy one space at a time, right? And it says two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time, right? Now, what was he talking about? Why was that so important? Because apparently, when he discovered this, he went running down the street naked, saying, Eureka, I found it, right? Like he cracked a massive problem. So this is how he got to that, right? He was a mathematician, he was a scientist. And then, while he was working, he told his helper to draw a bath for him, to like fill the bathtub so that he can have a bath. So what the helper did is she filled the entire bathtub right to the top, okay, which is fine. Then when he went into the bathtub, he went into the bathtub and he realized that as he went in, the water was coming out, right? Then he said to himself, and then he realized that matter can only occupy one space at one time. So when this thing was full of water and he went into it, the water obviously came out. So he realized that was a massive theory. Matter can only occupy one space at one time. And the amount of water that came out was the weight of his body. So he had discovered something absolutely amazing. But now, me telling you that matter can only occupy one space at one time is something that you can buy out. It is something that you can remember, something you can tell yourself 10 times and you will get it right in the exam, right? But if you just remember the story of this guy slipping into the bath, right? Of the water coming out of him, running down the street. Because at that time, when he discovered, it was a massive revelation. No one knew about it. So it took a bit longer to understand the story. Once you get it, you got it. No one's going to ever take that away from you, right? But see what I'm saying? The relation of the story helps you to understand the theory, right? Matter can. And like for example, the parallelogram that I know of is opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal, that the four angles add up to 360 degrees. Pythagoras, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides. Potter's five forces, suppliers, buyers, threat of new entrants. You see what I'm saying? I know the words. Although I did this so many years ago, I know threat of new entrants, SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. You think it's so easy, but people get SWOT analysis so wrong, right? Because they mix up opportunities with threats. So if you're selling chips in your shop and you realize, I can also sell Cokes, that is not a strength, that is an opportunity, and people mix it up even in MBA, right? The other thing, depreciation methods, right? When you tell me that, I think either straight line, reducing balance, right? I think about residual value, think about the rates, think about the profit on sale of asset. You see what I'm saying? Whenever you give me a word, I can give you words underneath that, right? And that is how I want you to learn. I want you to take a huge section of your work. I want you to break it down. I want you to find a story, understand why he came up, what he said. For me, this is an amazing story. Who cares about matter or whatever? But if you think about how this guy, and you will never forget that, because now that's in your head, how he stepped into the bath, how it made so much of, to us makes so much of sense, but he decided that. He came up with that, having stepped into the bath, having realized that the water, the volume of his body is what came out on the floor. I'm also just I'm gonna say, I'm gonna show you another example of this, right? But before I say that, I just want to say, parents, you need to be there for your children, right? If they're writing grade 12, if they're writing grade 3, whatever they're writing, you need to be there for their parents, for their children, because we know the entire house is writing, not just the kid. It will be a crime if you do not give this your best shot. Okay, and being nervous and being panicked and having the wrong approach is not your best shot. Okay, now here's another thing, right? For tax, not everybody knows tax or does tax, but essentially all tax means is that you take your income, right? Almost everything is income. So whatever you earn, whatever you made is income. So let's take a very rich person, right? So say he's got this business and for the year his income is 500,000 and R500,000, right? Now say he's got no deductions, like he can't, because your tax is your income minus your expenses, and it's not your accounting expenses. Accounting profit is different to tax profit, right? So imagine this guy, he's earned 500,000 rand, he's got no deductions, at 43% tax he needs to pay 215,000 rand. He actually's got to pay this over to SARS, right? 215,000 rand. So what he did now, this tax guy, what tax experts told him to do, right? Because remember, he's extremely rich. So they told him, you know what, you're going to earn, we know you've earned 500,000 rand, but you know your daughter, she's having a birthday, right? So why don't you buy a pony, right? So say he buys a pony for his daughter, and the cost of that pony is 500,000 rand. So they take the deduction of 500,000 rand. So previously he had to pay 500,000 rand. Now he bought this pony for 500,000 rand. He can deduct the 500,000. So now his taxable income is zero, right? Because 5 plus 500 minus 5. At 43% of zero, he's paying no tax. Okay? So you see how clever they came up with the solution. Buy a pony for your daughter and you pay no tax. It means you're kind of saving 215,000 rand. Now, SARS was looking at this position, right? And SARS didn't like it. Because obviously, the fiscus, I mean, the country is losing 215,000 rand. So SARS could have said, now they were faced with a conundrum, because they can't tell people you can't deduct the cost of your animal, because real farmers are going to buy real horses and they're going to need to they're going to need to deduct it, right? So this is what SARS came up with. They said, yeah, whatever you buy as an animal, you can deduct, right? Obviously, you can subtract it, but your deduction is limited to your farming income, right? Now, so the real farmer has got farming income of 1 million or whatever, so he can deduct the 500,000. But the rich guy, he doesn't have farming income because he doesn't have a farm, so his deduction is now zero, right? So when his deduction is zero, his tax now becomes 215,000. You see, so this is what the tax is, that your deduction under the purchase of animals is limited to your farming income. You see, now if I tell you your deduction is limited, it's very difficult to understand that, to learn that, or to apply that. But if you remember this picture of this rich guy buying this pony for his daughter and cutting his tax down, it is not going to be hard for you to remember that. Straight away in the exam, and they will tell you, Mr. Basson bought a 400,000 rand horse for his daughter or his son, right? Now straight away you're going to be thinking of the story. Straight away you're going to think his deduction is limited, and that is going to help you so much instead of you just by hearting. Why? Because someone told you the story. Okay, so understand the story behind the work instead of by hearting the theory. And I promise you, if you understand the story, I mean, I learned this so many years ago, but this is the story that our lecturer told us, and it stuck, right? Because it made sense. So that is what I'm saying. You need to do it like that. Now, if you quickly move on to on the exam day, okay? So on the exam day, you need to be as loose as a goose. Now, when you use that term, loose as a goose, right? You need to be absolutely relaxed. You should have got a good night's sleep in. You should be relaxed. You should be standing there prepared for the paper. You should be early, right? Now, here's the techniques that you need to do before on the exam day, right? You need to not talk to anyone, not even your friends. In fact, especially not your friends, because you will see in that exam, before the exam, everybody will be standing around in groups. They'll be talking, right? They will be sitting with their books wide open and they will be talking, right? Do not join that group. Stay by yourself. Keep your books closed, okay? Listen to your favorite song. In fact, blast the music if you have to. Put the radio on while you're being driven to the exam. Put your headphones on and listen to your favorite song, right? Listen to the words, listen to the techniques, because I can tell you, during the exam, you want that song playing in your head. You want to be so relaxed, right? It must be your favorite song, your best song, your song, right? It mustn't be a sad song or a dull song. It must be a powerful song, even like a dance song, right? Listen to it, okay? Eat a light meal, something like snacker bread and cheese, and drink as little water and tea as possible, because you don't want to be going through the bathroom and wasting time, and you don't want to be stressed, right? Also use the bathroom before the exam, because this is going to be because this is going to be something you're going to be doing for the next 3 hours if it's a 3-hour exam, okay? Also, pack your bag on the day before. Put in your pencil, your pen, your ruler, your rubber, your calculator. So the night before you go to sleep, right, you close your books, and your books will not open on the next morning. Do not go and stand there waiting for your paper, reading your book. Do not go and stand there talking to your friends, discussing things, because a friend will say to you, you know what, I know for a fact, you know, the teacher told me, he told the other class that, you know, the exterior angle is equal to the interior opposite angles in a triangle, right? That is definitely coming up. Now, straight away, your mind is going to think exterior angle, interior opposite. You're going to get confused, right? You're going to think, you know, I'm not really ready for that, and you're going to panic. Why? Because one of the guys said something, okay? And the other said, oh yeah, I know that, that's too easy. And you standing there thinking, I don't know. It's not too easy. That is why I'm saying, do not stand with your friends. Do not stand with anyone. Do not speak to anyone. Just have your music blasted and be by yourself. Okay? Then pack your bag the day before. So why am I saying that? The day before, once you finish studying, say it's 11 at night, right? You close your book. You say to yourself, I am ready for this paper. You take your pencil, your pen, you put it all into your case. Sometimes you even want plastic cases because you want to see what's in there. Your calculator, everything in there, and you do it the night before, and you put it on your table in your bag ready to go. Why? You do not do this on the morning of the exam, because the exam's at 9 and you sitting there at 7 and you can't find your ruler. Panic's going to hit you straight away. Or you can't find your pen, right? Also, take in extra pens, take in extra rulers. Think about whatever can go wrong in that exam will go wrong. Pack everything the night before. Have a checklist. Say, you know, I've got everything, I'm ready. You do not want to be looking for things on the morning of the exam. Okay? If things will go wrong on the morning of the exam, things will go wrong before the exam, right? Deal with it. No matter what it is that went wrong, maybe the traffic was too heavy. Maybe your parents shouted at you. Maybe you couldn't find something, right? Maybe you're panicked. Maybe you can't find your tie. Deal with it. Be organized. Okay? The more organized you can do, you can be the better. So if you know, like even if you have to wear your school uniform, get it ready. Get it ironed. Get it ready. Just put it on. Get up on time. Have your shower. Be absolutely relaxed. And again, listen to your music. Okay? Let it play in your head. Relax. Check the time that you have to write. Arrive early. Don't drink energy drinks like Red Bull and other energy drinks, right? And caffeine. Just don't. Be natural. Be fine. Just don't. Okay? Don't pull an all-nighter. Don't say to yourself, you know what? Don't cram, right? Because if you cram, it goes into your short-term memory. You could get it right. You could get it wrong. But if you don't understand, then you'll forget. Right? And most of these exams build on. So when you do grade 5, you need to know grade 4. When you do grade 9, you need to know grade 8. When you do grade 12, you need to know grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you're just putting things into your short-term memory, it will not help you when you get to grade 12. As you can see, I told you, force yourself to understand, force yourself to find out, force yourself to make a story that makes sense to you. Okay? Do not by heart and do not do things in a parrot fashion. Okay? If you're writing in the morning and in the afternoon, then also consider not opening your books. Okay? Do not, because just think about it. If you're opening your books, if you're sitting there and you're cramming, right, and you're going through a section and telling yourself, yes, you know what, I'll get another 5% in this section. The chances are you won't. The chances are that even when your friend told you exterior angle is equal to interior opposite angles, and you're not too sure as to what that means, and you start panicking, chances are you're going to that exam and it doesn't even come up, and yet you're sitting and you sat panicked, right? That is why don't talk to your friends, don't open your books on the exam, because you will see something there which will make you panic, right? And if you get 1 or 2%, the risk is far too high. You want to reduce any chance of panic. You will see when you get to the exam, you will see people with their books. You will see people that have pulled in all night. You will see people that have drunk Red Bulls. So what you do is, and this might be a bad thing, but you watch, you listen to your music, you got no books, you calm, you relax, and watch and observe how many people get it wrong, how many people got their books, how many people are so panicked, how many groups are forming. And just watch, and you say to yourself, this is exactly what not to do. Okay? Then when we get to reading time, and if you see something strange, and we will cover reading time, what you need to do, right? Do not panic, because if it's strange for you, then it's probably strange for everybody else. Okay? And do your best. So say you have 5 questions in the exam, and question 3 looks dodgy. Question 3 looks like something that you didn't study, something that they didn't go through in class, right? So it is an unfair question, right? So don't panic, because if it's an unfair question, it's unfair to everybody. So do your best, because everybody might get an average of 3, and if you can get 6, then you're already ahead, because you were smart. Because in your reading time, you saw, yo, something's different here, something's difficult here, something we didn't cover, and you want to do this. You want to let others stress, whilst you laugh and smile and are happy in an exam paper, which we will cover now, right? So in the paper, okay, first thing you need to know is that when you get into the exam, when you are sitting down and expecting your paper, right? I'm not saying you will be calm. You will not, okay? On the exam, in the exam, during the exam, your body will do strange things. Fact, right? It will do things. You will think differently. You will panic. You will, well, I'm not saying you will panic. I'm saying panic is something that can happen. You're now sitting in front of a paper where the next 3 hours determines where you're going to be, what profession you're going to be in, how well you're going to do. Okay, so understand your body will do strange things. Okay, so just anticipate, expect that. That is why go to the bathroom, do everything, be calm, right? That is why I'm saying avoid energy drinks. Okay, because you don't want to mess your body up even more. Then I want to say this, you know, when you look at 100-meter sprint in the Olympics, right? You watch these runners, and they are not standing still. Okay, they are walking around, they are kicking their feet, they are shaking their hands. They are not still. They are not just waiting. I mean, this is Usain Bolt, right? This is him before the exam. Look at that. Focus in his eyes. Look at his hands. Look at his actions. They are not standing still. You know what they're doing? They're channeling nervous energy. Okay, they're shaking their legs. They're doing short run-ups. They're channeling. And watch it for the Olympics, because they know they're running this as 100 meters. They've trained so much. It's a couple of seconds, even it's like 10 seconds, and they need to be under it. They need to do their best, and they are standing there with the best in the world. Now what are they doing? They're not calm, they're not relaxed, they are nervous. Okay, and what are they doing? They're channeling that nervous energy. They're getting that nervous energy ready to bolster and to boost them in that race. You need to do the same thing. You need to channel nervous energy, because there will be nervous energy. No one can walk into this exam and say, you know what, I'm ready, I'm calm, I'm relaxed. We're not made like that. We will be nervous, okay? So channel nervous energy, okay? So be calm, look calm, but inside, shake your hands, take deep breaths, be ready for something, okay? And then work sequentially in an exam. I know this is some people disagree with this. Some people say that you should start with question 1, but we will go through why you need to work sequentially. You need to be organized, you need to be relaxed, because I'm painting a picture of someone. This is you. This is what you should be during an exam. Organized, relaxed, ready, smiling on the inside. Remember, you went through the case, right? You said to God, yes, help me. You said, I cannot do this without you. Okay? You chose that. That is your option. That is what you're doing. And if you believe that, you will be relaxed. Okay? Because you need to be relaxed. And I'm saying the body will be doing strange things. We were not designed to be relaxed. But you need to find a technique to be relaxed. And that is the technique. You stand there, you're thinking, I'm not doing this alone. God is with me, right? Thinking, got nervous energy, I'm channeling it. I'm calm. I can hear my favorite song. I'm not thinking of what can come out. Whatever comes out, I'll deal it, right? Now, the people who say that they didn't study, that they don't study, and yet they get very good marks, beware of them, okay? Because they will irritate you. They will say, you know what, I got an A, but I didn't even go through this. I didn't even look at my books, okay? Therefore, no discussion and no talking about the paper before the exam. And if you do talk about the paper, if you do read your books, then there's a chance that something will come out and you get 1% more because you looked at your book, okay? Because you studied that. But the risk is far too greater. The risk is that you're going to panic. The risk is your mind is going to go into overdrive. The risk is that your mind is going to tell you you're not ready for this section and you don't really understand. And then they're going to call time and it's going to go into this paper and you're not in the right mental attitude. Okay? You do not want to be that. You want to find a quiet place. You want to take in water if you can. You want to go to the bathroom if you must. You must be in tune with your body. This is just me and the paper and God with me, right? So what I used to do, I actually told Ethan as well. Whenever you're allowed to pick up the pen, the pencil or the pen, the first thing I did was in the top right-hand corner is that I put a cross on the paper. Okay? So every one of my papers had a cross, tiny cross that nobody saw but me. Because while I put that cross, I just prayed and said, God, I can't do this. I'm not doing this without you. You made it possible for me to write this exam. Help me. Whatever mark I get, you're going to be with me, right? Then you will enjoy the paper. You will tell yourself, and you must laugh at the questions in the exam. You must relax. You must tell yourself, yo, everybody else is going to be so stressed about this, but I'm going to do this, right? Even if you don't know it, just being relaxed is going to get you at least 50%, okay? Don't stress, don't think ahead about your future. Just focus. It's all about this paper and now. Look at this Olympic runner, right? Look at Olympic runners. Look at the YouTube videos. They do not stand still. They channel. They channel. You can see focus in their eyes. They're not talking to each other. They're just walking and they're shaking their hands and kicking their legs and they're channeling nervous energy. That is what you need to do, okay? Then, in the paper, start at question 1. Go to question 2, 3. Go sequentially, right? I know that some of you will say that that's not right, okay? And if you've got 5 questions and you look at the paper during reading time, okay, and you now see that your favorite section is section 3, which is like half of the paper, okay? So you start at section 3, okay, all like relaxed. Now you know you're going to get good marks because you're doing your favorite section. But what happens is 10 minutes into that section, right? And so say you got 60 minutes to do that question, okay? 10 minutes in, you start realizing, you know what? I don't really know what's going on here. I don't think I'm going to get a good mark. I thought I knew the section, but I don't, okay? Now, you've got 60 minutes, you're 10 minutes in, and you're panicking because the section that you thought you knew, you don't really know, okay? Now, you've done question 3. You still got to come back to question 1, which you told yourself is difficult, and question 2, which you told yourself is difficult. So how your confidence is completely shattered because the one that you thought you're going to nail, you haven't nailed. And this is panic stations in an exam. That is why I say start sequentially. Start with question 1, then 2, then 3, and work through the papers sequentially. So if it says 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and then you do 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. You do not jump. You do not go from 1.3. You do not go from start at question 1 and go to 1.5 without doing 1.2, because the way the papers are organized, and I'll tell you, as a moderator, as an examiner, we write papers such that it is easy in the beginning and it becomes more difficult towards the end. So I'm saying, if you're in grade 12 for now, and you've always started with your favorite section, if that worked for you, stick to your routine. Don't change it, right? Because it's too late now to change your routine. If it's always worked for you, I'm not saying change your routine. But if you're in grade 3, grade 4, wherever, learn to start from question 1 and finish in the last question. And work sequentially, right? Go through the questions, because, like for example, they will give you... in maths, they'll give you work out what is angle A, right? So you work it out. It's simple to get it. It's 60 degrees, and then based on that, they'll ask you for angle B and C. But you cannot get B and C unless you worked out A. So the examiner takes that in. The examiner actually leads you down the path. The examiner knows you can't get angle C unless you got A. So it starts with what is A. So the examiner is actually helping you. So you don't jump to C, because if you do, you'll get it wrong. So you hear what I'm saying? And to be organized and to be sequential, you need to follow a sequential and organized process. How do you even do it? I mean, you start with question 3, and then you go to question 5, and then come back to 1. It is so disorganized and disjointed. How do some people do it? Because I've tried starting at the section I think I like. I realized, well, I actually didn't know it, and then you start for the rest of the exam. So I'm saying work sequentially, even in the question. 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Don't jump to 1.3, right? Arrive early. Observe. As I said, observe everybody and joke with yourself. Just say, yo, this one, I can just see the red ball. That one, I can just see the panic, right? It's not nice to say, but it's a reality. You can't teach everybody this technique. A lot of people will go into the exam and they will still read their book. They will still open the textbook. They will still be reading their notes. They'll still be talking about things. They'll still be stressing. Some will still be even drinking Red Bull. Okay, so just observe. So don't subscribe to the stress that they have. Carry a watch. It is exceptionally important to carry a watch. And I'm saying, not a watch on your hand. You need to have a watch on your desk. Something like this. Something that fits flat on the desk, right? And you start timing it when you start each question. Start at 0. Each question you time yourself. And I'll tell you why, right? Because in each question, the examiner will give you this question, right? So you've seen this. Question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the marks, and this is the total marks, right? All of those marks add up to 150, and that's the total. But this is a 3-hour paper, for example. Now, you need to work out under each question how much of time you need to take. So this is 10 marks, but this is 150 in total. But now if it's a 3-hour paper, 60 times 3 is 180, which means you've got 180 minutes. So how do you allocate those 180 minutes to each question? Okay, the answer is to do a calculation, right? So you have to take 180 over 150, which will give you 1.2, right? Then you take each of these things times 1.2. So if you take 10 times 1.2, you get 12. Now, each question, you know how much of time you need to take, because this is obviously working on one mark for one question, right? But for each question, you need to have a time limit, okay? So if you're doing question 1, and question 1 carries 10 marks, you need to know that it takes 12 minutes, okay? So as you start question 1, you start your timer, okay? And the timer is looking at you because you're looking at the timer, and it starts running, obviously. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And as you're doing that question, your timer, you're looking at the time, so, okay, I'm halfway through, and 8 minutes are gone, right? So I'm like in a bit of trouble. because on the overrun time I've only got 12. And then what happens is, when you finish question 1, you'll see that the time taken was actually 14. So now you are 2 minutes over, right? So now when you get to question 2 and you write to it, because you see you needed 24 minutes, but now you only got 22. So, and then you start it, right? And you know, and then say you're over again. Then you know, because every time you're over time, you're taking away from the end, right? So it is very, very important to know each question, what is the time? That is why invest in a little clock like this. Let it look at you. Because if you have the clock on your hand and you're going to look up and say, yo, look at the time, before you know it, 50 minutes will be gone. And you say, where did the time go? And start panicking, right? And don't rely solely on the fact that the teacher strikes out the time on the board. That's not going to help you. That's not going to tell you how much of time you need for each question. If you hear, right, say at half the paper, and now you realize you're way over time, okay? Remember, now you've got 90 marks to go, and you're going to lose. The worst thing that you want to ever do in an exam is to hand in a paper incomplete, hand in a paper not done. And I promise you, I've seen people, the last section, they've run out of time, left it out completely, right? Now look at how badly they're going to do it straight away. They've lost 33% of the paper, gone, because they panicked, they didn't follow the time, they didn't give enough, they didn't give an hour for this last paper. So what helps you? And trust me, I've tried with putting your watch on your wrist. It doesn't work, because you will be amazed at how quickly 50 minutes gone. And where in that question, if you had 20 minutes and you've taken 50, you will not finish the paper, you will not do well. So the clock, the time management is essential. And then the other thing is, if you get this question, right, and you've got 12 minutes, okay, and you're running over now, it's 15, 16, 17, stop completely and go to the next question. Because each question, if you look at the graph, right, they say when you start a question, a new question, right, and as you start taking time, as time goes, right, this shows that your marks, you're getting higher marks in the beginning, okay, higher marks, because obviously they're asking the easier questions, so you're getting higher marks, and as time goes, you're getting less and less marks. So why would you want to sit on question 1 and get less and less marks for the next 2, 3, 4 minutes, when you can go to question 2 and quickly pick up the low-hanging fruit, get the higher marks? So you always want to make sure that you're sticking to time, and you want to practice that you're not exceeding time. Because the worst thing that you want to do is, say you still got 4 more questions and 12 minutes are up, right? You should actually leave those 4 questions. I know it sounds horrible, but you cannot allow yourself to not finish your paper, and tell yourself to start moving faster, and that's why you practice. When you practice, you do better and better and better. Okay, now I just want to, so the other thing, sequentially observe and highlight, right? The other thing is highlight and draw, and read slowly, and read more than once. So highlight keywords like list, discuss, explain. If they say list, 7 points, right? And then list the colors of the rainbow. So it's easy: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Done. Do not sit and talk about the clouds, and just list it. 7 marks done, because they said list. If they said explain why we only have 7 colors of the rainbow, then it's different. Explain why, then you can say we have 7 colors of the rainbow, which is this, and rainbows do not happen often. You can always wing it, right? Watch your time, use your stopwatch, allocate your time, use your list versus explain versus discuss. You will see the marks will guide you. If they say explain and they ask 5 marks, they're looking for detail. Okay, if they say list and it's 7 marks and 7 things, list it, bullet points, go. Be guided by the mark allocation, right? And move as fast as you can and get this done, because you can do this. And do not hand in papers unfinished. Do not hand in papers with questions not done. And what I'm saying is, if you are the kind of person that says, you know what, I will start at question 4 because that's my section, right? That is the one I learned, that is the one I know. Question 4 could be the hardest question in this paper. The examiner, remember the exam, there's no limit to what the examiner can do. The examiner can test you on things that you do not know, okay? And tough. You cannot complain. You could test you on things that's not part of the syllabus. It could ask you what's the tariffs, what's the implications. If you haven't been following the news, then you're in trouble, okay? That is why I'm saying work sequentially. If you're in grade 3 and you're watching this, start telling yourself to work sequentially. Why? Because you're going to be organized. Because when you get to question 4, you're going to know question 1, 2, 3 is done. In the end, if you have extra time, go back, right? But do not plan to go back. Do not rush. Give each question the time it deserves. Like this, question 3. If it says 36 minutes, don't try and get it done in 12. Okay? Take your time, breathe, right? Give it the best shot. So you hear what I'm saying? Try and do that. Now, I just want to kind of say this, which will help you as well. Now, I've said, I've written board exams and I've passed, many of them. I've written many exams and I've passed. Not because I'm clever, not because I'm smart, but because I've learned. Learn to apply and to use this technique. The R method for learning, the forcing myself to understand. There's a whole lot of little nuggets that I've passed down your way here. And I would not have passed those exams had I not used this technique. And trust me, I've learned, right? I've learned the hard way. There was one exam that I wrote, an accounting 2 exam, right? And I had a blackout in the paper. I'll be honest, right? I had a blackout and I probably got like 8% for that paper. It was a test paper, so it was fine. And then I went to God and I said, you know what, I can't do this. If I'm going to get a blackout, and this is accounting 2, how am I going to do accounting 3, 4, 5, well, 3 and 4, advanced accounting? And then, like God told me, and then I realized what went wrong with that paper because I analyzed it, right? So that is what I'm saying. Do a self-analysis. Talk to yourself. Talk to God. Say, God, what went wrong? Did you let me down in that paper? You're supposed to help me. You didn't. And then I realized something, right? I did have a blackout in the paper. I did get 8%, okay, for that test. Thank goodness it was a test so I could recover, right? And the reason why I had that blackout was because I didn't understand the work. I studied, I put in the 30 hours, I bioted, I knew everything. But when they asked me to apply, I was dead because I didn't understand. Remember, if they're going to ask you prepaid expenses to apply it, right? If they're going to tell you that you paid 11,000 and well, if they tell you paid 13,000 and it's 1,000 a month, then you know you prepaid, right? So it's 1,000, you debit, you credit, you fix it up. Now, I didn't understand that at the time. I just learned it. Like, you know what I did? I knew this inside out. I knew what a prepaid expenses, knew the actual definition, I knew the adjustments, I knew the journal entries, but specific to this. Now, the minute they changed it up in the paper, the minute they said that the total expenses was 20,000, I panicked. I didn't realize you have to do the 1 over 20, the proportional adjustment, right? And because I panicked, I blacked out. So I said to myself, so God said to me, if I give you the most difficult, well, if I told you, I'm going to give you an exam, right? 3-hour exam, okay? So it's a 3-hour exam, right? 3 hours, right? And God said, say I gave you 100 questions, right? And I need you to get 95%, 95 right, okay? And your whole life depends on it, right? So that is the scenario. Your whole life depends. So I need to get 95% for this paper. Panic stations, right? How can you get 95% for a paper? Okay? And then God said to me, right? He said, what if I also told you that this exam that I'm going to give you to write is a maths grade 2 exam, right? So it's going to have things like 5 plus 6 plus 7, right? That is going to be the question. Okay? And you're going to get 100 questions like this, and you need to get 95 right. Okay, so 5 plus 6 is 11 plus 17. The answer is equal to 18, right? I got 3 hours, got 100 questions, and these are my questions, right? Now, what would I say? Easy game, isn't it? I can easily get 95% if these are my questions. If the question is going to be 2 plus 8 plus 3, right? That's going to be 10 plus 3 is 13. 100 like that, I can easily get 100 out of 100 because these are the questions, simple questions, right? But why are they simple questions? God said, so why are they simple questions? Because I know this is easy for me. I'm like, these are easy questions, I know it, right? And that God said, exactly. You wouldn't have a blackout, you wouldn't panic, you'd do well, you'd get 98, you'd get 100%, right? Why? Because I know, right? That is the key, because I know. So if I go into an exam and I know, I will not panic, I will not have a blackout, I will be relaxed because I know. So what happened with that blackout that I had in the accounting exam? This is what happened. I did not know. So I didn't have a blackout. I didn't know. As simple as that. So let me tell you what I did. I told myself, I'm not going to go into exams where I don't know. Because I'm going to panic, I'm going to have a blackout, I'm going to know. I'm going to do my best to know. And you know what? I'm not going to know everything. Obviously, no one can. But I'm going to know as much as I can. And I'm not going to panic, I'm not going to black out because I know. And this is a key for the matrix, right? When you go and write your grade 12 exam, back yourself. Tell yourself, I will not panic. I will not have a blackout. I will not let this pressure get to me because I know. And what do I know? I don't know everything, right? I know. I put in the effort. I've done my best, and my best is going to be the best, right? And because God is helping me, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to get 7 A's. Not everybody is. But I'm going to be relaxed and I'm going to get the best mark that I can get. And panic stations are gone because this part about I don't know is going to go. I've put in so much of work, so much of effort. I know what I did and I know what I know. And I might get 6 out of 10, but that's good enough. In another question, I might get 9 out of 10. My marks will be pulled up. Why? You will not have a blackout because you know. I mean, look at this. You know, matrix, if I gave you this scenario, 100 questions, you need to get 95% panicked, right? And your whole life depends on it. Critical. This must take away the stress. I mean, I've got so many messages from parents telling me that their kids are writing grade 12 and they're so stressed. You should not be stressed. You know, you've put in the effort, you've put in the time, you've burnt the midnight oil, you've done your best. Okay, relax. Now, I've set papers, I've moderated papers, and I've marked as a moderator. So the process is, I'm not sure if you know how papers are set. It's set by the teacher. The moderator then actually does the exact paper that you will write. The moderator gives feedback to the teacher and says, you know what, this paper is a bit too hard, take out this question, it's not fair. So once that feedback is done, then the paper is done. So the moderator actually does the exam. Trust me, I've actually had to do exams, right? Like accounting exams. When I moderated for an accounting paper, I had to do it, had to give feedback, I have to say, and this is not fair, and the students, this paper is too long. So it is done. So when you get the paper, all of that has been done. So we give feedback to the teacher, and then we always set the paper such that we start with the easier questions, and then we move our way up to the more difficult questions. So the questions always build up. Like I said, what is angle A? You work out it's 20. Then once you know angle A, then it'll ask you what is angle B. So knowing that angle A is 20, angle B will easily be 50, right? And then they'll ask you what is angle C. And then if that's 20, that's 50, all angles are 180, so that's 180. Okay, see how simple that would be. But now if you try and solve angle C first, you will not get the answer because you need A and B. So you hear what I'm saying? The examiner is actually asking you. They're not asking you C first. They are leading you. They are telling you, if get A, get B, and then you'll get C. Okay, so do not, it would be very, very stupid to try and get B. Try and jump to C first because you think you know C. The examiner knows what he's doing, so trust him and he's helping you. He's your friend. He's not there to catch you. Okay, so don't skip and don't jump. And as examiners, we know exactly where students will slip up. Exactly. We know exactly the mistake that they make, and we even follow the mistake, right? And remember, we are here to test understanding and not by hearting. And even the way the board exams work is that professionals, like chartered accountants, will submit exams, the board will look at it, and then they'll choose some of the exams. Okay, it is about understanding, not by hearting, because anyone can by heart, but not everyone can understand. And if you're in the real world, because remember, you're getting prepared for the real world. In the real world, you need to understand. You can't be by hearting. If they ask, if a patient comes to you and you're a doctor and he says, he's got a pain in his chest and it's hurting terribly, right? You need to know he could be having a heart attack. You can't be checking Google, you can't be reading your book. You need to instinctively know, okay? And you will know. So when marking, we can clearly see what type of student we are dealing with. You can see they are neat and organized. We can see a lot of scratching and rubbing out. We can see someone who knows his work versus someone who doesn't have a clue. We can see someone who's all over the place, writing untidy, ran out of time, didn't manage time correctly, we build an invisible relationship. You build an invisible relationship with your marker and your moderator. Also remember, the marker wants to give you the marks. You've built that relationship, you've highlighted your answer even if you've done that, you've shown the steps you've taken, you're so neat, you're guaranteed to get a good mark. If you're untidy, if you're all over the place, if you panicked, as a marker we see it, right? And we feel sorry for you, but you can't pass. Now, let me tell you, when we wrote board exams are hectic, right? But this is what they told us. The marking, when the marker does it, he probably sits in front, has a glass of wine with him, and he's sitting at the fireplace, right? And he's marking a number of scripts, not just yours. So you just want to stand out. You just want to show him, because remember, initially he'll mark the script, he'll look at the model answer. Well, he knows the model answer because he did the paper anyway. But as he goes on, he's just looking for neatness, he's looking for the answers. He's human, right? He's trying to follow you, he's trying to help, he's trying to give you the marks. So work with him, help him, show him that you're relaxed, be relaxed. I can tell you, when I went to write one of my board exams, the Seymour board exam, Liverpool actually played the Champions League the night before, right? And that is where we won 4-3 after being 3-0 down. And I was so energized, I was so positive, I was so happy. And during that entire exam, I was that happy. Now, I even slept late when I shouldn't have. I watched the entire match and I was like jumping up and down, right? And that energy actually passed the board exam. So what I'm saying is you need to relax. And finally, trust in God and trust the process, right? Be anxious for nothing. And if God is for us, who can be against us? So trust in God, be anxious for nothing, and if God is for us, who can be against us? And this does not apply to just exam day. You can see I've covered before the exam, I've covered the summary of before, how to learn, understanding and by hearting, on exam day, in the exam, how papers are set and marked. And then we're also going to do an allo and a maths paper, but I think time is running out. But let me know if you need to go through that, if you need me to go through that with you. And also, finally, do not put pressure on yourself. Too many people are doing that. Matrics are panicking. Don't worry about AI or whatever. For now, all you need to do is pass this exam and get the highest mark that you possibly can. And if you're trusting in God, if you're not anxious, and if you're knowing that if God is for us, who can be against us, it's going to work itself out. You need to get the best possible marks in the time available. You need to be exceptionally relaxed, not only during the exam, right now, once you are thinking about the exam, once you're studying for the exam, even if you're in grade 3, please apply these techniques and methods and let me know. Okay, sorry for the length, but I think all of this was necessary.